the room are starting to talk about ordering food.
Oh, maybe they're hot.
And I'm like, hold on a second. Are you just assuming that we're all going to be able to just keep rolling through lunch hour? Because I'm not there to eat food with you, and I need to go downstairs and fix my own lunch. And they were like, oh, yeah, sorry, we forgot you were there, basically.
Yeah, you can't join them for lunch. Oh, do you need to eat and then come back? You could start whenever.
No, I made them listen to me too. I just need to print out this document real quick.
Okay, yeah, just let me know if you need to eat because our meeting goes from 1 to 3, so I don't want you to be hungry.
I know, it's been back to back today again.
Yeah, please eat though.
Oh no, I did.
Oh, you did? Okay, good. Good.
That's funny. I did before they did, actually.
Oh, that's a good idea. That is.
They had to order pizza, and I just went downstairs and heated something up. So.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, it's hard to do that all on an empty stomach, to just go straight through. I don't know how they do that.
Well, yeah, because I started at 7:30 this morning, and so there's been no break. I'm grateful to have a job, don't get me wrong, but sometimes it's like, to not get bathroom breaks or lunch breaks or anything like that, it makes for a really long day.
Right, and you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah, so
your body.
Although I did get my workout this morning, I had one 15-minute break between my first and second meetings where I had to push a riding lawnmower up a hill, and by the time I got done, I was breathing so hard I had to take a few minutes to sort of just catch my breath.
Yeah, that's somewhat aerobic, pushing it up a hill.
It was.
Yeah.
It took two of us. It was heavy.
Oh.
And the ground's wet, so our feet were slipping.
That's a challenge, but that's still a good workout.
Okay. Oh. All right. So I just need to take a picture real quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Downside of working from home is that I can't just be there to sign it.
Yeah, so then.
And there's somebody who has traveled today to be there and sign all these documents, and she can't sign it till I sign it. So she's sitting there basically like she's kind of just waiting for me to do it.
So you sign it, you take a picture, you send it back.
I use an app called Tiny Scanner.
Oh, nice.
And it allows you to use your camera to take a picture of something. And it creates a PDF, like a scanner would.
Beautiful.
And then you can, send it for whatever your purposes are, send it over. And so...
I need to get that. Yeah, that works, rather than trying to use your phone and it's not
And of course,
quiet.
because of what this is, I sign it and scan it and send it, and then I also have to mail the hard copy.
Oh.
Kind of funny.
Yeah, they want both, huh?
Yeah.
But at least you can get them to scan a PDF right away. That's nice to have.
So I understand that you met with Emma again today.
Yes, we did, and talked a little bit about institutions, on a couple of the studies, and then a little bit more on contacts with her. So we met about maybe an hour and a half, and then an hour and a half yesterday. So it was a good meeting.
Good. Well, it's going to be a little bit repetitive. We're going to talk about pretty much the same thing for.
Okay, good, because I might have some questions.
Hour. as she probably went over multiple studies for you, is that they all look exactly the same.
Oh, right.
Regardless of where they come from, which is kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Our process, or each of us do this just a little bit differently.
Right.
So that's kind of going to be where some of the differences are going to lie, is sort of what techniques and they use versus what I use. Can you still hear me? I just switched over to a headset.
Right. Yeah, I can still hear you. We just can't see each other, right? But we'll be able to share screens.
I can see you.
Oh, you can.
Okay. Can you see me now?
No.
Maybe in just a moment. Maybe your WebEx settings are not set up to.
Let me see.
Actually, you can't see me anyway. There's so much sunshine glare behind my head. I just look like a big fuzzy blur.
Yeah. So it's a one-way thing. Well, it's good to know that you can see me. Okay.
I can see you. That's good, because it means that if you don't understand, I can at least see your face a little bit and see if it.
Yeah, you can see my expressions.
So let me share my screen.
Okay.
And I'll think, I'll open this up here.
Mm-hmm.
And, okay, so I think you've probably seen, working with Emma, where the forms come from, where the reports come from.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that we'll do is we'll get you access to make the hyperlink work in email. Can you pull your laptop down just a little bit? I can only see your forehead. Oh, that's much better. Thank you.
Okay.
There you are.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So they come in via email, right? And you open up a hyperlink. It opens up an Excel document. The easiest way to then see or access, the easiest thing to do then is save it to your desktop and then upload the file to the study folder.
Okay.
The study folders are here.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Right.
I wrote down somewhere, let me check this, which studies I decided I was going to give you.
Okay.
Yesterday.
I'll jot them down.
Ooh. Now I've pushed a button and there we go. And I made your camera full screen on one of my monitors. I lost what I was looking for. Okay, so
I'm glad my
technology
sky's
is so
better.
fun.
The other day I look very different. I'm okay today. All right.
Okay, where did I write that down? I swear I had a post-it note sitting right here on the desk somewhere that had the studies on it. So the studies that I'm going to have you work on are 1130 and 1139. We're going to start with 1139. It's relatively small, relatively straightforward. It's a good, easy one to start with. 1130 is it's sort of a small to medium sized study, so it's got a little bit more to it, but there's a lot of what I would call false positives in the 1130 study file. So we're going to look at both of them and spend the next roughly 45 minutes or so working actively on those two reports. They're the reports that came in this week. So we'll be doing work while we're training.
Okay.
And then whatever, if there's anything left, then of course we'll, if you want to, you can give it a try.
Okay.
And I can hand it over to you. So.
Okay.
So we'll start with, I'm going to start by just showing you, we'll start by showing you 1139. And then I think we'll work on 1130. And then if you want to give 1139 a try, and we can touch base either tomorrow or Monday if you have any follow-up questions.
Right. Oh, that's a good idea.
So I keep my folders for where the CRO reports are. I keep it very clean, and the reason for that is because if it's a big long list of files, it's hard to find which one is the latest and greatest.
Okay.
So this is the one that came in on Tuesday, and I uploaded it, and you can see that because it has this little new icon next to it, but also because you can see that I uploaded it just last night. You can see the modified date there.
Mm-hmm. So
when
then,
I put it in,
okay.
and initially check it in, I use a comment of initial, which tells me that I haven't done anything to this file yet.
Oh, okay. When you check it in. Okay.
And yeah, so you will be the only one that will be in here modifying these documents and working within this folder. So you can find a system that works for you.
Okay. Yeah, I'd seen Emma's, so I'll look at yours, and it'll be sort of two different perspectives. And
I'm not sure Emma keeps her folder as clean as I do. I think because she's got a few more studies than I do, so I think that hers is probably a big long list, and she just knows which one is the latest. Yeah.
Right.
So when you have SharePoint open like this, if you click on this Library Tools tab to open up this ribbon, there's this option here called Open with Explorer. And it will open this same folder location up in this format. So you could easily move files into this original and complete folder. So for example, looking at these two other files here, my comments, see, I use the same thing every time, so I can click and short words so that it's easy to kind of see. So I can quickly see both of those files are finished. Right, because it says done, big all caps.
Okay.
So that means that I can take these two files, and the date of the file is this number, so 2019, March 25, right? So I can take those files and just drag them into here. That's how I keep the file clean, is I open up an Explorer and I drag the files into that completed folder.
Okay.
There's not really a way to do that out here in the SharePoint guide. So it's a useful tip to know how to do that. Because now if I come and refresh the screen, it's even cleaner.
Oh, because you moved them. Okay.
Yep, I did. I moved them into the complete dot because I'm done with them. There's nothing that needs to be done on them anymore. So if I go in here, you can see from historic, it's a big long list.
Right.
And it's been managed by multiple people. You know, there's a whole bunch of information in here. But if I searched on, say, just mine to sort of show you what my process is, you can see in here
what you just dragged in.
Edits done, edits done, edits done, edits done. You know, this one had questions, and I sent it over to the study team. Those questions got answered, and the changes were completed. So when I checked it out, I made the follow-up changes, and I'll show you what I mean by that in a little bit. But you can see through all this one didn't have any changes at all. So I try to be real consistent with the comments so that when I'm looking through, I can tell what the heck I was doing 2 weeks ago. So every once in a while, go ahead.
So to move those two files, couldn't you just have drag them directly into the folder instead of opening?
Not using SharePoint.
Oh, very tricky. Okay,
so
very different. So
that's the beauty of this. Yeah, is open it in Explorer, and then you can just drag them in there. And that's what I did.
Okay. So it doesn't act like Explorer.
It doesn't quite.
Right.
Yeah, well, if you open it with Explorer, it will, but in this format, it doesn't.
Oh, okay.
And if there's an option to, I think it says send to, so if you send it to another location, so you can send it here, but it makes a copy of it.
Oh, which is different. Okay.
And I don't want that. I just want to move it, right? So that's the quickest and easiest way to do it. Less clicks.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead and open the document. Check it out.
I sent a request, open ticket, to have remember I couldn't access the Excel sheets.
Oh, yeah.
And I haven't heard back as of this afternoon, so I'm still waiting on that for them to fix it.
Okay. So now you're starting to see something that probably looks a little bit familiar, kind of, based on what you've been working on with Emma. So this is a relatively typical report from 1139. It's why I feel pretty comfortable in giving you two kind of right away. But I want you to do this one at least for a week or two, and then you tell me when you have enough bandwidth to take on another one. Because even if it's only 5 changes, you might want to have a little bit of time to do it at your own pace.
Okay.
And not be pressured to have multiple studies to do throughout the week.
Okay. Yeah.
The overall goal with these reports is we get them on Tuesday, and the target is to have the changes made by the end of the week, and provide a copy of the completed version back to the study CTA, and so that she has a copy of what changed in the CTMS data from last week to this week, and so we do that by the end of the week. Okay. If you get a file that has a whole bunch of changes in it, it's going to take you a little bit longer. If it's Monday or Tuesday of next week, that's okay. If it's going to be a little bit longer than that, just let her or him know that it's going to take you a little bit of time to get it done. Okay, so this tells me that I have, for the contact information, I have 1 modified record, and I have 4 modified institution records.
Okay.
So we're going to get to kind of poke around in both places. I always start with the institution tab.
Okay.
The reason for this is it's usually the quickest one to finish, for one. And also, if something changes, so oftentimes if something changes at the institution level, it also impacts the contact records. And so a lot of times if you have, for example, so let's see this one for example. So if the CRO took the quotes out of here,
right,
in the name, then what you'd have in the contacts list is every single 1139 contact that was linked to that institution would have a change in their institution name. But you don't make that change at the contact level. You make it at the institution level, and it trickles down. So that's one of those cases where you're in your report here, it would say 45 updated contacts, and you'd open it up, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's just an institution change. So I go make that first so that I know that it's done. And then when I go to open up the contact tab, I can basically look and see, oh, I don't have to do 42 of these because there's this other change that I've already made.
Yeah, so it's kind of a shortcut.
Yeah, when you think about the staircase, right? If I start at the institution level, then I'm fixing something that's going to impact something farther down the staircase.
Okay.
Okay. So, as with the contacts, you've got the section of added and deleted, which there aren't any records up there anymore. So the first thing I do is I hide stuff. I take a lot of stuff out of my view so that I can see sort of what I'm looking for. And then when I'm done, I show all the rows again and columns again. So I don't need to know that it's a clinical site. And I don't need to know that it's 1139. So I just kind of prepare it, and you'll get the hang of this in your own way. If there's no data in the columns, I don't need to see them. And now I can start to see over here, here's what's changed. The sites have closed. So I actually started to do this one last night, and I stopped because I went, oh, this is perfect for training.
Right.
Because it's updating a clinical site status. So let me just continue hiding some of this stuff away. We don't enter any of this. And this is all stuff, just repetition. You'll get the hang of knowing which columns you care about and which ones you don't. So the next thing that I do after I kind of narrow down all the blank stuff is I create a column out here at the end for my comments. And I like things pretty, and I'm really picky, so bear with me, actually.
You want the matching...
Yeah, I make it look the same. And the next thing that I do is looking at, so I only have to change half of these. And the reason for that is this line represents last week's data, and this line represents this week's data. And what's highlighted is what's changed between those two records.
Okay.
So I don't need to touch this one because it's last week's data. So I say that. Last week's file, no changes.
Okay, so for every other one, I'll do for open.
And I copy and paste that all the way down.
Okay. Oh, so you do explain every row.
I do, yeah.
Okay.
Because I'm going to give this to the CTA, and she's not as familiar with, I'm actually talking to the study team in this case. It's why I make it pretty, because you're sending it outside CIS, right? So, so if I will come in and I highlight, I'll show you this in just a second, but when I get done, this particular change requires 3 steps. And so once it's done, anything that's different, I'm actually going to highlight in green, because green means done in my system.
Right.
And then in the comments, I'm going to put exactly what I did, who did it, and when.
Okay.
So that when I send it to the study team, she can tell that there's nothing for her to worry about. So if there was a follow-up question or something that didn't make sense to me, I would mark it in red. If you think of a stoplight, I would mark it in red, and I would put in a what's wrong, and then ask a question for her. Can you please tell me, for example, if it says that the site this is a good example. If it says the site's closed, but there's no site closure date, I can't close the site because I don't have the date.
Right.
And some of our studies put in, and actually it's the opposite way around. So we have some studies right now that they give us a close date, but they don't change the status to closed.
Right, so we still need to verify.
And that's right. And well, in that case, the reason that they're doing that is because the COV has been conducted, but they haven't completed all of their action items. So the site technically isn't fully closed yet. And so it took me a while to figure this out, and now I don't have to send it to the study teams and ask anymore. But if that was the case, if this still said open, so looking at this one right here, this is a perfectly good example. There's a close date.
Right.
But so last week there was a closed date, but the site was open. And last week's this was highlighted yellow.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, well, how can you have a closed date but not change the status to closed? Right. So the comment, the first time I found this, the comment was marked in red, and the date or fields that confused me were marked in red. And the comment was, I can't, why is the status not closed? What am I seeing?
Yeah.
Please let me know what the real status of the site is. They came back and they said this. We've had a COV, but the action is unclosed. We technically aren't closed with the site yet. Okay, I will wait and not change the status to closed until this field changes.
Okay.
So this week, that's what happened. They finished what they were doing, and now they're changing the status of the site to closed. So I'm going to go ahead in the system and close the site.
Okay.
Does all that make sense?
Yeah, so it said open last week, and so you got clarification, and then you said you weren't going to close it until...
Right, so I waited until all of it said closed all the way across.
Okay.
So I'm going to open CTMS. And when you close a site, as I said, there's 3 steps to closing a site. Okay. And I'm going to open SharePoint. And I'm going to open OnPoint.
Okay.
So I tend to, especially for this one, I'm going to do all these sites all at once.
Right. You open
I open everything that I need. It's very Bob the Builder. I got to have all the tools ready so that I can move a little bit more quickly.
Yeah.
So I know that I'm going to need to change information at the clinical site level. So I'm going to the clinical sites list, and the view that I used right now to make these changes is this one called Site Details. I sent an email about this yesterday, where we have a problem with editing items, and so we have to use Datasheet View. This view is the best one to use to navigate around that issue that we're having in the system.
Okay.
So I'm opening up the view that I want. I'm going to filter it the way that I want it and all of that so I can move through the steps that I actually take most efficiently. So Site Details has all of the dates that you need to change the status of a site. I'm even going to pop over to the list tools, which is right here, and switch this from standard view to datasheet view.
Okay.
Datasheet view looks and acts a little bit more like Excel, and it allows you to make changes live and in real time in the system. It's a little bit of a risky thing because If I accidentally bump something in here, I can change it, and it can make the change and save it without me even really noticing, because sometimes it happens very quickly. It's great. It's got great benefit, but at the same time, there's risks associated with it. So in general, we only use this view in a couple of places and for specific reasons, because it doesn't ask you, are you sure you want to save it? There's no save button. When you click out of the row, if you've made a change, it saves it, and it does it very quickly.
Oh, okay.
So even in our work instructions, when it talks about using Datasheet View, it warns you that we don't usually do this unless there's more than 20 records to change, or unless there's a specific reason to use this particular format.
Okay. I'm just taking
Emma calls this, when she's talking about people, Emma calls this site bulk, which looks sort of the same. Yeah, you've heard her refer to that. So site bulk or bulk add looks just like this.
Now, do you have one? Because I was able to add a site. I have a site bulk ad that I created one of those shortcut buttons up on top. And I have one that's a site bulk ad, but you don't have that one open.
I will in just a second. So I've got my clinical site list open, and I'm also going to need to make changes to the individual site contacts. So I'm going to open that too.
Oh, okay.
And this will help you speed up too. If you open each of the places that you need to go in separate tabs in IE, you won't have to wait for the page to refresh when you change over from list to list. So Emma probably goes to this one.
Yes. Yeah.
Bulk ad. I recommend creating a personal view, and once we get through the doing CRO data transfers, I'll show you how to do this. But I have views that I have created that only I can see, that have roughly the same fields, but a couple of other things that I tend to check for. So in the bulk ad view, the email address isn't there. And in my particular view, I have it programmed to be filtered by study. So in this particular case, it's already filtered for the 1139 study, which is what we're looking at. But if you're going to do 1139 and 1130, the first thing that you would do is come in here and change the settings within your view to look at a specific study. The reason for that is the site contacts list has over 70,000 records in it. So it takes a really long time for the list to populate and before you can start actually using this view, because it has to think and download all that data. So if you program your view to be filtered by a study, it doesn't take as long to make it functional, because it doesn't have to look up nearly as much. So it's just a shortcut or a tip that I've learned over the years to make me a little bit faster in the system. So I've got my clinical sites open. I've got my site contact list open. My site contact list is filtered by study. I can go ahead and also filter this one by study. And then the one last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to open OnPoint real quick. And I open it in a new tab as well. If you ever get that error message you just saw on my screen, just hit refresh. When you close a clinical site, you change the clinical site status. You modify the site contact's end date, and you put in something called a site closed out checklist document. So that's why I'm opening these three lists. I've got my sites open to do the status. I have my site contacts open to do the people. And then I'm going to do the document over here. So to do that, you go into CTMS, document tracking. And then study documents. This is in work instruction 174.
CTMS.
So it looks like this. We only track two different kinds of documents. one called the site checklist, which represents all the essential documents you collect to open a site, and a site closeout checklist, which represents all the essential documents and stuff that you do to close a site.
Mm-hmm.
Usually in a CTMS, you've got your 1572 and your contract and your protocol signature pages and all that. We don't track any of that in here. This represents those things.
Okay.
So, couple things about OnPoint. If you haven't done this yet, in any of the screens that you go into, blow it up to 200. It'll show more than the 10 records it will show you by default, and you'll be able to navigate through things a lot faster, a lot easier, and you'll never have to change that setting again.
Okay.
So it's a one-time thing. Another thing is this right here is the biggest OnPoint gotcha in the whole world, because you can come in here and like, why can't I find the site? And it's because it remembered what study you were working on last time, and it's going to pre-filter the list for that study. So if I had been working on a different study, that study would be listed here, and I would have to first filter the list by study. You can't just leave it wide open. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right.
Okay. It gets us all every time. It still gets me after like 10 years or however long it's been in the system. So if you ever have questions, just give me a shout.
So
but you can change it.
Oh, sorry. So
you can change it by hitting this change search button.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So to get to this, it's the site. Is it site management?
So this one is it's CTMS, and then it's document tracking.
Oh, I'm sorry, document tracking.
We go two places in OnPoint under the CTMS module when we're working. We go to site management and we go to document tracking.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Most of the time you're up here, but in this particular case, for what we're doing, we're coming down here.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay. One other quick thing about documents. I know it's hard to see, but there's a letter in this box, and it works a little bit like a stoplight.
Mm-hmm.
A little bit. There's more colors in this particular stoplight than there are in actual stoplight. So the documents that are marked with a box that's blue have a P in them, and the P means pending. It means that it's a placeholder document that doesn't have a version date associated with it yet, and it hasn't been marked as completed. So it's waiting for you to take further action.
Okay.
When you add a clinical site, actually Emma and Shri do this, but when a clinical site gets added to a study, they put it into the system, and then from there you take it over.
Uh-huh.
When you change the status of the clinical site to evaluation, the system automatically creates the site checklist for you with a status of pending, because it knows that you are going to have to collect a bunch of essential documents before the site can be considered open to enroll. So it automatically generates the document, and it then waits for you to simply come in and put the open date into the version date field of the record and mark the document as complete as you're opening the site.
Okay.
So this document space and where we're working, the only time that you come in here is when you're opening a site, when you're closing a site, or when you're QCing.
Okay.
Once and I'll open these documents here in just a second too, so that you can see how actually open up one of these ones that's pending.
Okay.
So when you open up a document record, kind of like the same thing with institutions and contacts and OnPoint, everything's grayed out until you hit the edit button, and then it opens it up for you to be able to change things.
Okay.
So this document has the status of pending, which is listed in this drop down right here.
Mm-hmm.
It's grayed out because you don't manage that. The system manages that for you. But it tells you what site number it's linked to, what kind of a document it is, all of that.
Okay.
And so in this one in particular, this document actually wasn't quite managed correctly because there's a step that got missed. So when Dwani came in and closed she changed the status to closed, and she entered the site closed out checklist, and she put the date of the site closure into the version date.
Right.
But she skipped checking this box right here.
Oh, okay.
So we're going to do that as we go through this. But that's what changes the document from a blue box with a P to a green box with a C.
Oh, okay.
And a completed document means you collected it, it's in the TMF or whatever, and you're done with it. And it kind of locks the record. You'll see when I check the complete box, you're going to see many fields gray out.
Oh.
See that?
Yeah.
It locks it all down. So if you're going through and say doing a QC and you find that the version date is incorrect, you have to uncheck this box before you can make any changes.
Okay.
Okay, so we're marking it as complete, and I'm just going to save the record, and then it's going to take this one right here. It's going to take this blue P and change it to a green C.
Okay.
Boop. So in theory, when you're QCing the closeout of a study, you would want to either have all of the documents green,
right,
or anything that you're not ever going to collect gray, and V for voided, which means maybe the site terminated early and you're not ever going to collect that document. In this particular case, the site completed before it ever opened. It terminated before it ever opened. So we're not ever going to complete the site checklist process. So we voided the document. Okay, clear on that so far?
Yeah, so far.
Kinda?
Yeah,
Okay.
so I'd only go into the CTMS documents if I'm opening, closing, or QCing.
Yep, exactly.
And then just click on these document numbers and make, okay.
Right. And the system automatically creates the site checklist
Okay.
when we open, and we manually create the closeout checklist when we close.
Okay. Manual for closeout.
This doesn't happen too often, so I'm not sure if Emma's gone through this part with you yet or not. That's why I'm taking a minute to stop and explain this just a little bit.
No, great, thank you.
So again, 3 steps to closing a site: change the status, change the people, change the document, right?
Right.
So let's go through one. And I think for this one, since we have 4, I'll do 1, maybe 2, if you want me to do 2.
Okay.
And then if you want to give the other ones a try, I can give the document over to you and you can give it a try. It's up to you. It depends on how you want to do it. If you want, we can just do it all once together, and then next week you can give it a try.
Yeah.
Or we can schedule some time to give it a try where you're driving and I'm watching. We can do that too.
Okay. Either way.
So let's go through this. So the first one is, the site number is 1103 for this first one.
Okay.
So I'm going to, for right now, I'm going to drag this over onto my other screen. Okay, 1103. So we're going to start with the site. I've got it filtered by study. So now I'm going to go to that particular site, 1103. This site is already closed. So, chances are this means the study team told us, let's see, the closure date was February 4th. So, they probably emailed us and told us to do it, and we did it before this report came in. So in this particular case, because the site status is set to close and the closing date is entered, it needs to be modified. It doesn't match what I have in my Excel tracker, so I'm going to fix that. But beyond that, there's not really anything that needs to be changed, so I'm going to show you what I'll do. So the Excel tracker from the CRO says that the closure date is 2/4/2019. Now, see how this has like a little spreadsheet thingy? Watch this space when I click out of this row. The double arrow and this little back and forth thing down here in the corner says that that data is saving to OnPoint and to SharePoint right now.
Mm-hmm.
When the double arrows disappear, the save is done. So that's what I mean when I say you may not even notice that you've saved something because the double arrows aren't there for very long.
Oh.
But I've made that change already, so the site is correct. Now I'm going to move over to the people. I'm filtered for 1139. I'm going to open up 1103. And I'm checking that the end dates listed here are complete, that they've been entered, and that they match the end date. So this was what the date was. So I'm going to change the end date from January 24th to February 4th to match the site closing date, but I'm only going to do that for fields where the site end date is what it was previously at the clinical site list. So sometimes you're going to have end dates in your tracker that are historic.
Okay.
They quit on the study before the closeout of the site. You want to leave those where they are.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to change this to 4/2019. And there I've got my double arrows. I can make multiple changes at once. 2/4/2019, 2/4/2019, 2/4/2019. See that? It's just going boom, 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 save, save.
Mm-hmm.
Whoops. I don't like this mouse over right there. I wish it was someplace else.
So why didn't you change Kristen's, the second one? Let's see.
I didn't change it because it's a year prior to the actual closure of the site. So I want to leave that one alone.
Mm-hmm.
And looking down through here, the only other one that's different is this one. I want to leave this one alone too.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
But I can, and this is going to take a second, because the first time that you copy-paste data in Datasheet View, it takes a second. After that, it'll be quicker, but the first time it takes a second. So I'm going to hit Control-C, and then I'm going to hit Control-V, and this is just going to take a second. And once it catches up with what I just did, finishes thinking about it, it will, you'll see the change reflected. And then I'll show you something about how we can quickly do this. Okay. Full disclosure, it takes a little longer than a second. Should be honest. It takes a few seconds to get this ready to go. Okay, so now you have your little spreadsheet thing. It's recorded the change, so I can click out. And it goes ahead and starts making the change, right? Now if I go to copy paste a second time, I can copy and paste and paste.
Okay.
And now I've updated all of the site contact end dates all at once. This is the beauty of Datasheet View, is that you can make a whole bunch of changes all at once.
Okay.
And it's done. So step 2 is finished. The people now have an end date that matches the date of the site closure.
Right. All the ones with January, they were
Right.
replaced. Okay.
So then the third step is to come over to the document. I'm going to filter for 1103 with my site number. And I'm just going to double check and make sure. I'm going to have to update the date on this one, likely. Okay, so you've got your site. This is your opening document. Here's your closing document. We need to modify our closing document. But it's already complete, so we have to take a couple steps. So we're going to hit Edit. And we're going to uncheck this box. And then I'm going to change the date. So 4/7.
Okay.
And in OnPoint, it requires a different date configuration, so you can't type in like 2-4-, it won't take it.
Okay.
So if you do that, if you do, and I do it every once in a while, and it throws an error at you, you've not followed the date format. This is the date format. Updated the date, marking it as complete, saving the record.
Okay.
That's it. So now, coming back to my tracker, I'm taking this
And you're going to hit it.
and this, and I just use sales styles usually, and then I put in site status was already closed. Updated site closed date. Site contacts. End date and site closeout checklist date. If I can type. My initials and the date. And then I mark that. That's great. So then when I send this to the study team, here's what changed from last week to this week, and here's what I did.
Okay.
Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So looking at the next one, we'll just go through this again. So 1189. Type this over here. Go back to my site contacts list. Filter. Okay, this one's still open. So I'm going to change this field. This is a drop-down field, so you can either type it in or you can select it.
Uh-huh. So closed. Okay.
And then the site closing date, according to my tracker, is January 28th, 2019.
Okay.
And then I'm clicking out. Go to the people. And I've already done my copy paste delay. So it's not going to be, it doesn't take time after you, that one time, it's the first time you open IE and go in to make changes that it takes a couple seconds to get that copy paste thing to work properly. After that, you can paste it right away.
Okay.
So now I've put in my end dates. So my site contact status is fixed. My site status is fixed. My site contacts are done. Now I need to go do the document.
Okay. CMS document.
Okay. So there isn't one. This is expected because the site was still open. So I'm going to hit New Document. You're going to link this record. First step is to link it to the site. So you can look the site up. What I do is type it in, and I type it in. I can see what the site number is right here in this file, in this record behind it. So I'm going to type in GRC hyphen 1189 and hit Tab. And you can see it updates for just a second. That's because it's connecting together the site with the document record. It makes a little relationship connection there.
Okay.
And so once I've added the site number, the next thing I'm going to do is come down to Document Family and choose Other.
Okay.
Document Type is Other. And then I'm going to say Site Closeout Checklist. And you put that here and here. So you fill out these 4 fields, right? So I can just copy this and paste it.
Okay.
And then the last step that I do is date related. So the site close date was 28 Jan 2019, and this document is complete.
Okay. And then hit save. Oh, I hear your doggy in the background.
Yeah, I think somebody's pulling up the driveway, so when the window's open, so he can stand up on the windowsill and look out the window. And now you have your site checklist and your site closeout checklist for 1189. Step 3 is complete.
Closeout checklist.
So I mark this.
Mark it green. Okay.
And I say, what I did. So the site status was changed, site contacts were updated, site closeout checklist was added by me on today's date. Okay, here's our next one. Tell me what I should do. Teach me.
First, you should go to the site contacts list up on top. This clinical sites details.
Okay.
And then you're going to filter to see if it's open or closed. So you're going to put in the study or the site number.
Okay.
In here, which was I didn't take down the site.
It was 798. So we're there.
798. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it says it's still open.
Okay.
So we need to change that
And
to
it's
closed.
closed.
Yeah.
Right.
We need to change it to closed, and we need to put in the date that the tracker has.
Okay. And the date is 1/18/2019. And I'm saving the record.
Save it. And you see the double arrows, and then you click out.
Yeah.
And
So in this particular case, you can enter in the date and hit enter, and it will pop down to the next row and start the saving. You can click with your mouse. You can hit enter. Both work. Okay, what's next?
Then you go to people. So the study contacts tab up on top.
Mm-hmm.
The contacts. So we're on contacts. And then you change all the dates to the date.
Filter by study, right? We're going to go to the right
first
site.
0798. Yeah,
Okay.
in the correct study. And then you just paste all the dates, the closeout date on the end date here.
Beautiful.
Boom.
Boom.
That's nice.
Next one. What's next?
18th. And then you go to documents, CTMS documents, and you see get the correct study filter for 0798.
I don't know if you can hear it, but now the dog's barking and the kid's yelling at the dog. Like, just shut up. Okay, what do we see? What do we need to do?
We need to add a new document because a closed checkout list isn't available yet. So new document.
Okay.
And then we type in this portion of the study number, GRC 0798, right up on top at the site number here.
Okay.
And then we go to document family, document type, if other specify, and document title, and we fill out those 4 fields. You put
Right.
other, and then for if others specify, you put closeout checkout list for both.
Yep.
And then you, let's see, hit complete or not.
You can't hit complete because there's one thing missing.
The version date, which is the end date, January
Right.
18th, 2019, and then hit complete and then save.
Perfect.
Okay, and then we go back and to the tracker and hit the green filter, change this to close. Highlight it, the close with green, and then update the comments on the right hand side. I would just do a copy paste.
Yep. Perfect. Okay, one more time with feeling. So we're just going to see what I mean? It's like it's really pretty simple, and especially really once you start doing it yourself a couple times, you're like, oh yeah,
Okay.
Like you go through and
Okay.
you can do it pretty quickly. And the other thing is too that you don't necessarily have to filter. You've got it filtered by the study. You could put this in just numerically, and now scroll down to 562 and go closed and put in the date.
Right.
So where that comes into play is, really we could have done that.
But it's just easier for us to see to filter.
It does. It's easy to see exactly what's happening, and it also helps you if you're paranoid about this. Filter as much as you can so that you're certain not to make any mistakes.
Okay. Yeah,
Okay.
but the closing of the studies is probably, there's extra steps with this one. I mean,
For
doing
closing
this.
sites, there's definitely a few extra steps, yeah.
Right. Okay. So then copy and paste the closing date on that, and then click out to the next row.
And you can leave that in the background to work as long as you don't close the tab. So it's still double arrowing over here.
Oh, okay.
And that's okay.
Okay.
So we have a...
4562.
So what we've got going on here is it looks like somebody probably manually added a site checklist when they didn't need to because the system creates it for you. So there's a duplicate record there. That's why one is voided.
Oh, I
so
see.
I'm just explaining kind of why that would look like that. And so we still follow the same process, though. We don't need to do anything with this. We just new document.
New document, right. And then the site number, CZ0562. And then other for document family.
And if I type in O, it jumps down to that part of the
nice shortcut. Okay.
menu. Yeah.
And then other. And then for specified documents, that goes out. Check out this. Okay. And then this time, remember the version date, which is that date. And then complete and save. And then change that to green. And then copy and paste that.
And I'm all done with this, so the next thing I do is unhide all my rows and columns so that when I send it to the CTA, they see everything all the options that were there, what's blank and what isn't.
Okay.
And this is where things really get picky. The next thing I do is I rename this tab to throw this at the end. And the reason that I do this is because if there's a follow-up question, I would put follow-up. If there's no changes in here, I would put none.
Okay.
So when you send it to the CTA, if she knows there's questions, when she opens the file, she can tell from clear out here which one she has to pay attention to. And then she's looking for red, so it's like it's really easy for her to see exactly what she needs to look for.
If it's done, it's done. She knows it's done.
If it's done, it's done, exactly.
Okay, so the tab's on the bottom, done. Okay. I'm not sure that Emma did that on the bottom.
She doesn't. I'm probably the only one.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you.
Crudy may at this point because she thought it was worth doing, but it's just something that I specifically do.
Okay.
And it's because I'm thinking about the CTA. They have day jobs, so I don't want them to have to interpret what they're seeing here. I want them to just sort of go straight to whatever it is they need to take action on and jump right to it.
So if these are blank, I don't have to verify that anything is missing. Just hide them. Basically.
So
hide them.
The short answer is no, you don't. Once upon a time, and Emma probably even had told you, you want to check the address and check every single field.
Right.
And part of that is because we had some data that got missed. And the most common one was that in the contact list, we had all the information except the medical license, and yet it was in the CRO data. We have a way now to more easily QC that. And because we have so much entry to do, in general, you shouldn't need to do that. You should only have to focus on what's in the yellow.
Okay.
Every once in a while, when you're going through something, if you start to see, or notice that something is in fact missing, you might need to pay a little bit more attention to do a quick double check. Or if it really looks like you're starting to see some big differences, we can do a quick QC. We can get a full data dump of all of the CRO's data and use like a spreadsheet compare functionality from Excel and do a side-by-side comparison to see, what else is missing and not have to sit and do it through this piece.
So eventually this is going to go through a whole QC.
It does, yeah, and it does it when you close the study down, and part of the QC automations that we're working on is that we'll look for some of this. But it's not, in some cases when we really felt like we were missing data, I was having them check every single field whether it was yellow or not. That's very time consuming.
It is.
So only do that if you start to see something that makes you not trust that what we have is exactly the same as what is there.
Okay, yeah. Sounds.
And the way that you would see that is this is a change, thinking about the staircase, this is a change to phone number data.
Right, so
this is the contact record level, not the site contact record level. So we're going to open a different list. We're going to go to contacts. And so from here, I'm going to drag this over here for just a second.
So we're in the portal.
So once again, I have my own view, which when like maybe next week or something, we'll sit down and create these for you.
Okay, good.
But I've created a view for myself that matches column for column this. So it's side by side. So what's great about that is that when I'm doing a quick comparison, I can quickly and easily see if something's not quite right. So if you happen to notice, as you're scrolling over here, or right here, for example, there's a medical license listed in this record, but it's not here, then that means that the study that you're working on, maybe the CRO data, something got missed when we pulled the data in, and you would want to pay a little bit more attention, or as a separate work project, do a QC of your study.
Okay. Yeah, which is helpful.
Yeah.
Just to create these different views that match the list.
It does. And as Norvin he's in the process of applying an upgrade change to the system, and the default contact view is going to be changed so that it does match.
Right, yeah, because I'm noticing the little numbers on the end, so you mentioned he's going to change those, like, what's contact?
Yeah, this goes away.
Okay.
So I'm going to filter for this person, and then we're going to add a phone number and a fax number to the contact record. And when we add it to the contact record, it will filter out to all of the other places where their address is, so we only have to make this change in one spot. Oh, usually you can type in the first few letters. There we go. But when I'm sharing my screen, it doesn't like that. There we go.
Yeah, and you could also, but we're not going to make a change in OnPoint for...
Correct. We probably do 90% of our changes out here in SharePoint, and the reason for that is because we use this version history a lot.
That makes sense.
To be able to see when and who made changes. There are a few things that you can only do in OnPoint, which we'll get to know as we go along. But if you make it in OnPoint, this is who made the change. I can't tell who. And I have to go and run audit trail reports, which sometimes take a really long time to get a hold of, where you can see exactly who did it. If I did it in SharePoint, you can see who did it. So we like to do as much as we can in SharePoint for that very reason.
Now what happens, like I'd seen Emma make a change, and I don't remember if it was a phone number, address, she did it quickly in OnPoint, but then went to SharePoint and then did it and said, well, SharePoint beat OnPoint, and so SharePoint now has, it wasn't, I guess it was saved only once.
There's some rare cases where you would want to do that. When you make a change in SharePoint and hit save, when you're saving the record, it sends the data to OnPoint and updates the database. When you are making a change in OnPoint and saving the record, it takes 5-10 minutes for that change to show up in SharePoint. So one of them is instantaneous and one of them is not. And so what she was doing basically was she was making the change in OnPoint, but knowing that SharePoint won't see it for a few minutes, she went into SharePoint and changed it there too, so that the data was correct in both places. About 5 or 10 minutes after that, the system refreshed, and it would have synced again. So it's in most cases, we don't do that all the time because it's kind of a waste of time. If you can wait 5 minutes, it's okay. But for example, if it's in some cases, and we'll get to those. So far, it hasn't been a huge issue, but in some cases, for example, if you change PI's email address. Now, right now, if you get a request to change a PI's email address, you don't do it.
I
you
don't
send
do
it to
that.
Anu and I.
Right.
But if you were, once we get a little bit farther along here, if you were changing a PI's email address,
Mm-hmm.
and you were doing it for a PI that was involved in safety letter distribution,
Mm-hmm.
you'd need to make that change in a couple of places because the lists there's a few minute gap between where the changes get applied out.
Mm-hmm.
And for that particular thing, because it impacts Safety Portal, we would need to make that change in every place, everywhere right now to ensure that somebody didn't grab the wrong piece of data by mistake.
Oh, so you would do
So
it.
there are cases where you would do it. It's very rare.
Oh, okay.
But I'm glad that she showed you that because it is something that you do sometimes do.
She said
We'll
when
get
you're
there.
going.
First of all, you can just make the changes and move on.
Okay. So it does take longer for the OnPoint to save onto SharePoint. SharePoint to OnPoint is faster. Like when you're doing
Yes,
a change
that's
in
correct.
SharePoint. Yeah. Okay. I think she had it in reverse. She's like, oh well, OnPoint's faster to save onto SharePoint. But I thought I remembered you saying if you're making a change in SharePoint, it's faster. You don't get that spinning wheel.
Yeah.
I think.
Right. Correct.
It's like almost instant. Okay. All right.
Hang on just a second.
Sure.
Okay, I'm back.
Okay.
Tristan had a question.
Oh.
It's spring break, so he's home.
Oh, how nice.
Okay, so I'm going to edit the item.
Okay.
Ordinarily, when you're changing a site status, once we have this fixed, I can show you how to change a clinical site status using this form that we're looking at on the screen here. This is what doesn't work. This is the piece that's broken and why we have to use the data sheet view for clinical sites. But if you have multiple clinical sites to change, it's faster and more efficient to use the way that we just did it.
Okay.
So we have a phone number and a fax number already present for this contact when the tracker said that last week there wasn't any. That's because this contact is linked to more than one study, and likely 1127 had already given us the data. So I'm just double checking to see, and it looks like the data is different than what we have. So in the tracker, the phone number ends in 0961, and that's not what this says.
Right.
So before I make any changes, and because this is a person that's on two studies, this is known as data adjudication, which means trying to decide what to do when you have a person who's on multiple studies.
Okay.
If 1127 really does in fact have that number as their phone number, I don't want to change their data
Right.
just because 1139 says it's something different. Maybe they really do use two different phone numbers for their study. So I'm going to use OnPoint. And I'm going to go to Contact Management, Console, Contact Management. Contacts and institutions are out here, top of the staircase. And I'm going to check for something called the study-specific address. And there is a way that if the address or phone numbers are different for a person, that we can have multiple addresses associated with an individual, especially if they move, like maybe they worked at City of Hope and then they moved over to, Seattle Cancer Care Alliance. Their address at City of Hope was still applicable to the study that they were on at the time, but now they have a new address. So you need to be able to have all that data carry on with you. So, MAVROG, put in some of the person's last name. One other little gotcha is that it looks like you can enter in text or search field information here and hit enter.
Yeah, no, you can't. You have to hit
It spins. It looks like it's doing that. It's not doing anything. You have to actually hit set filter for it to do its thing. It gets me all the time because every place else I can just hit enter and then I was like, oh, dang it. And then I have to wait for it to finish thinking.
Yeah, it brings up the contact.
So I'm gonna edit the record so that I can unlock all my fields and kind of poke around a little bit.
Okay.
And what I'm looking for here is here out and on point is where you have the ability to have multiple addresses.
Right. Yes.
There we go. When you see, you can see there's 3. So when you add a contact to the system, it automatically takes the institution's address and attaches it to the contact record. It does that in the background without you having any involvement in it. And you can't modify the institution address or the DefInst address at the contact level. You have to do that at the institution level. But it makes that relationship so that you can at least see this person is connected with City of Hope. City of Hope is over here. Seattle Cancer Care is the institution address is in Seattle. You know, so you can, they're linked there.
Okay.
But you can't change it at the contact level because it's not a contact address. It's the institution address.
Okay. Only at the institution. Okay.
Every contact, by default, has a default address.
Right.
So if they only have one address, that's called the default address.
Okay.
But in this particular case, and I'm just going to poke through here, so the default address has, I want to look at all 3 of them. It has this 17-something address here, and these phone numbers. And so if I change, and one other thing about the default address, that's the one that you always want to have this box checked next to. You would never want that box to be checked for one that is study specific.
Okay.
Because this is the one that gets seen everywhere versus a study specific address we create, and then we can go and tell the system for this study at this site, look at this address instead. But you always want the global contact record itself to be looking at the default. So
yeah, it's like the default printer.
Right, because if it was looking at a different one, when you went to open up the record, under the address name it would say study 1139. You were like, wait a minute, hold on, I'm at the contact level. There shouldn't be anything study specific out here. So that's just an important thing to kind of remember, that little checkbox.
Okay.
Okay. Come on, screen sharing. So 1127, it looks like they maybe have a little bit additional address information there, and that's why there's a study-specific address, just because there's just a little more data there. And then switching over to 1139, their street address is different. And it is, looking at the tracker, you see it matches what's there. It's very rich.
Let's see. Okay, it does match for the street. But they have a different phone number.
It's a little bit different. We'll put that in there too. Yeah, Tristan, that's why I told you not to eat it all, was because it is really rich and it'll make you sick. Yeah, I tried to on my birthday and I was like, no. Just too much chocolate. Okay, so looking at 1139, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to copy the business phone number and paste it.
Right in there, right.
And copy and paste it. Okay, so that's for the study 1139 contact.
Right, and you knew it was 1139 because it matches.
Right,
okay.
And it's got this
same address
study title here. So I'm going to take one more step on this, and that is because this is someone who is affiliated with a clinical site, that's a study-specific clinical site. I'm going to tell the system that for 1139, for site 1108, which is who this person is connected to, I want you to show the address that's titled study 1139 at the site contact level in SharePoint. Without saying that, it will show the default address, which is a completely different address and completely different phone numbers, as we saw. The way that you do that, and again, this is also in Work Instruction 174, it's called study-specific addresses, and it speaks to also how to set it at the site contact level. You also do this in OnPoint. So we go to CTMS and Site Management. And I'm going to open up the site information for site 1101. I'm filtering for 1101. going to click on the hyperlink, the site. And click on the Site Contacts tab. What we see listed here is the same thing as what you would see listed out here in SharePoint with the Site Contacts list with their start and end dates. But I'm going to go ahead and edit this record and find my guy who is not listed here. Oh, that's interesting. So this contact.
So we're trying to, this is the second part of fixing the phone number. Now you've changed it in SharePoint.
We changed it in OnPoint. We changed it specifically for the 1139 address for this contact.
Right.
And now we're trying to tell the system for 1139, for site 1108, please show this address, the 1139 address for the site contact record. Otherwise, it will show the default.
Oh, okay.
But what we're seeing when we open up the site contact list here is this isn't actually a site contact yet for this site. So we're going to add them. And because we need to set the address here in OnPoint, and it's the only place that we can do it, this is an instance where you would add the site contact record right here in OnPoint and not in SharePoint. It's one of those cases where it's the 10% where you're making changes in OnPoint. So I'm going to select a new record. Okay?
Okay.
And it's going to open up a window where there's just a few fields. So it's going to link us to the contacts list. So I'm going to hit this magnifying glass. And it's going out over to where we just changed the phone number in the contacts list. It's opening that list from right here. So I can come in and search again for that person. And I can select it. So now it's connected with that person, and I'm going to look at my tracker and see what I have as far as a start date. And then her role is, in this particular case, her contact type is regulatory, so it's going to pick that. But her specific role for this study is investigator admin, and I know that because that's what the tracker is telling me. So I'm going to choose that option. And then for the contact address, it's choosing default by default because that little box was checked. But we're going to change it to 1139. And by doing this, out in SharePoint, at the site contact list level, it's going to show the 1139 specific address for this particular role for her. Does that make sense?
So why couldn't it see it before out in SharePoint?
Well, it couldn't see this person because she hadn't been added as a site contact yet.
Oh, okay. So
that happens sometimes when you come in and you go to make a change like this. You find that this is an example where the CRO data, as it was coming through the data transfer, it made it look like it was an update when actually this is a site contact record we never had. So we needed to add it. The contact was in the system, but the site contact record was not.
Oh, okay.
So we added that and then programmed the address to display the one that we wanted.
Okay.
Without this setting the study-specific address, it's going to show the one that's the default. And I'll pop out there and show you what I mean in just a second. So I'm going to save this, and it's saving just this piece of data on this tab, so I have to hit save twice.
So is there
I'm going to save.
Oh, sorry. So is there anything that I could do to check to see that out in SharePoint the other study that this person is linked to other, the other studies that they are?
Yeah. So right here, when you look at the contact record, you can see what studies they're linked to.
Okay.
And then if you come to the site contacts list,
right,
You could theoretically look. You could look here. So not looking at my little special view, but looking at all items. So the site contact list has a whole bunch of other data that what we actually work in is much smaller. We don't change addresses here for site contacts. We change them at the contact level and set them someplace else. So while all of that data exists here, the views that we use or work within are abbreviated to just the common fields that we actually use on a daily basis. So just the name, the site number, the role, the start and end date, and so forth. But that doesn't mean that there isn't a whole other ton of information associated with the site contacts. So here you can see this is the same person working on two different studies as the contact type is study coordinator. But for 1121, she's a study coordinator. For 1145, she's a data manager. So the hat that they wear at the site is slightly different for those two studies.
Okay.
So at the site contact record level, it's two different records.
So what if I was...
linked. It's all linked to this one person,
Okay.
but it's two different hats that they're wearing.
Right. So, if I was changing this, I might just change the phone number, but I wouldn't know, or, I might miss adding the contact record in for her other study, So would this be
So we don't have to worry about the other study for
Okay.
1127. 1127, the person who manages that study will do it.
Okay.
But you would know that they're linked to another study. That's
Yeah.
about as far as it would go, unless you specifically went and dug around, which you could, but you don't need to. You're only having to worry about what you know for 1139.
Okay. Okay, that's why we just changed that one.
Yeah. So say, for example, instead of it being a phone number or a fax number that was provided, it was a start or end date, you would have been able to do it all right here. Maybe in this view, maybe in a different view. It kind of doesn't matter, as long as you're in this list.
Okay.
So this is the list.
Contacts.
Your site contacts. This is the view. It's information in the site contacts list presented to you in a different way. It's like why they call it a view. So it's basically a different way of cutting the data. It can show you everything, or, I have a whole bunch here. This is the one that matches the CRO reports. This is what I do for Safety Portal. Here's the actual INDSR. This is the Safety Portal list that IQVIA pulls from for Safety Portal process. Obviously, Norvin has been monkeying around in prod making a second one. So there's, the ones that have my initials in front of them, only I can see. Those are private views, and
I could use that
the
one.
rest of them are called public views. So, for example, this one is everybody with or without an end date, versus this one being only ones that don't have an end date, so they're the current ones only. So this is the historic list of all site contacts of a study or a site over the life of the trial. Versus this one is only the people who are currently working there and don't have an end date. And that's a public view everybody can see. We only have permission in the system to make ones that only we can see.
So which one would you suggest I should use? All items?
This one right here.
Oh, bulk add. Okay, that's the one that I have on my button up on top.
And next week I'll teach you how to make one that works a little bit faster than this one will.
Oh, okay.
Because the difference between my CRO, HKCRO view and this one is I included the email address into the view.
Right.
I did that because it matters whether or not we have a PI email address for Safety Portal. So I put it in there just to make it a quick step for me to be able to see, is something missing? Do I need to go get that from the study team? But I also took this column out and instead told my view to be filterable for specific studies. So my view is programmed right now to only see 1139 data. And if I want to change that, if like right now we're at a point where we're ready to move over to the 1130 study. So just real quickly, what I would do to prepare for that is to come down to this area here and choose Modify this view. And these are the settings, the private views. So it's got the name of the view. And I always, like I said, I always put my initials in the front so that I can see what they are. And this is all the columns that I can pick from to put into my personal view. So I only use just these 7, but there are a whole lot more. There's 57 different columns you can put into your view.
Okay.
And you can, when you're creating a view, you come in and you say, I want that one, and I want that one, and I want that one. I don't want this one, I want this one, and I want this one. And you can pick and choose exactly what order those columns are positioned in. So you're really setting it up like, I want it to look just like this. That's what this means.
Okay.
And then down here, you can have it automatically sort. So my list automatically sorts by site number and then by first name, alphabetically. So like Excel, you can tell it, I want it to look like, I want it to include this, and I want it to look like this. And then you can tell it to filter, but I only want you to show me instances where the study number is 1139 or 1130. Mm-hmm. And then if I hit OK, when I come back to my view, now all of the clinical sites that are listed here are 1130 clinical sites. So it takes a lot less time for the whole list to load because I'm only looking at one study versus all
rather
60
than
of them or whatever.
Taking the bulk ad and then going to link studies and choosing 1130 and waiting for that.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Yeah.
Because if you open up bulk ad,
you can do it that way too.
You can do it that way too, but it's going to take a while. This little thing down here says, I'm loading the list. Hang on a second. So if I go to click on this to try and filter, it's going to go, okay, hold on. Give me a minute.
Yeah, so it's just much more waiting.
A few minutes because, it's like 60,000 records. So it speeds you up.
Okay.
It speeds you up to kind of create your own. What's cool, though, is you can, when you're creating a view, and like I said, we'll do this together, when you're creating a view, you can use existing ones as a starting template. So we could use this one as a jumping off point to create our own and say, I don't want this column, I want maybe a couple others instead, and I want, just to be over here first, and, you can make it look however you want.
Oh, okay.
And it's yours. It's your own little view. You can do it however you want.
And then just save that view. So the next time I come in to look at study 1130, I'll pull this up.
Yeah. Okay. See, it's still loading.
Oh, boy, you aren't kidding. It is a shortcut.
Yeah. It is a shortcut. It's a big shortcut.
Oh, no wonder.
So it really helps a lot.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to mark these as green. And that is here and here. And I forgot to make my little column, so I'll do that real quick. HK comments, last week's, no changes. Contact updated. Study specific address.
Before we move on, if I had forgotten to add that record, the site 1139, and didn't link her to the contacts, would that be an error to the site contact list? On my part, if I didn't?
Yeah, because she should be a site contact, and if you forgot to add her, then she wouldn't be, so she wouldn't be visible. It would be something you would catch if you did a full QC of all the CRO data against what's in CTMS.
Oh,
But in general, you
because I might remember. Oh, okay. Well, I need to change this up at the top of the staircase. The her number, but
right.
Yeah, but then
then miss it. It is something that you could overlook. So so in next week when you do the 1139 study, my recommendation would be, and again we can do this together if you want, but my recommendation would be. We might want to have a tab, checking your contact tab, be a two-step process. Not only would you want to make changes at the contact level if that's what needs to be done, but also just double check that person is in the site contact list.
Oh, just as a general double check.
There. Yeah.
Okay. And make sure that all the studies that I see at the top staircase that they're linked to, to make sure that she's also visible in the site contact list in SharePoint.
Yes, but you don't have to check. So like this one she was linked to 27 and 39.
Just check 39.
You don't have to check.
Yeah,
you don't have to check for site contacts for 1127. Somebody else will do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So one quick shortcut for that is you could start at the site contact list level. Oops. You could start at this level.
I think Emma started at the site contact level.
Yeah, you could start at the bottom of the staircase.
Okay.
And look at your tracker and see, is this person here? And because you do have the ability to see the addresses and phone numbers, you could check it here, and you wouldn't have found her.
Oh.
So you were like, okay, so I know I need to add her as a site contact. Before I add her as a site contact, I have to make sure that first she's a site contact. I mean, a contact.
Right.
So she's not in this list. Okay, so I need to make sure she's in the system at all. So you go in and you find her in the system. So then you're able to see, okay, but her phone number is different. Okay, so I need to go and check and find out what's going on there. And so then that's how you would see it. So my recommendation is, rather than looking in two places, look using a list at the site contact level at the bottom of the staircase.
Okay.
With information that includes all of that. And if they're not here, then you know what you need to do next, right? Well, I need to put them here. They obviously have to be here. That's what's in the tracker.
Okay. So
then you check to see, are they even in the system? Are they linked to the study? Sometimes that's what's missing. They haven't been added as a site contact, and they're not linked to 1139 yet. So you would go to the contact record and add 1139 as a linked study, and then add the site contact record.
Okay. I see.
Another cool trick about using a view like this column with the blue hyperlink actually is connected to the contacts list. So, for example, if you can see them here and you can see that maybe the phone number is wrong or the address is wrong, but they're not linked to more than one study, if I click right here, it actually opens the contact record.
Oh, okay.
So if I click, and you can see that by right up here, right? So if I click Edit Item, I'm changing the contact record.
Up at the top of the staircase.
From the site contacts list. Yeah.
Okay.
So you can touch the top of the staircase from the bottom of the staircase.
Without having to get out of SharePoint and go into OnPoint and then...
Right. Right.
Oh,
And the only reason that you would want to not do that is if you noticed that they were linked to more than one study. And then you'd want to check for study-specific addresses, and that's stuff that you can only do in OnPoint. But if you find one that doesn't have that double link, let's see. Here's one. Only in there one time.
Okay.
Only linked to one study from here, so when they open up the record, see? Ha. Somebody's missing a site contact record because they're linked to multiple studies. So you can investigate quite a bit from the bottom of the staircase and touch various spots.
Okay.
Anything that's blue and looks like a hyperlink is. So the same thing here. You can touch the clinical site list from the site contacts list. So if I am seeing this end date, I can look and see, is it because this person quit the study or is the site closed? So there's some other information that you can see by using these blue hyperlink columns. So, okay. We put in our comments. That is green. We can unhide all of our columns. This tab is done. I'm going to save it.
Okay.
And check it back in. Now, the last thing that I do when I finish the CRO report. No, Outlook isn't working. Let's try that again. Email. 11:39, and when I hand this study over to you, I'll tell you who this person is. It's Sabrina. I have a little sticky note on my laptop that says 11:39-Sabrina, 11:30-Rika. So I can always remember who it goes to. And I say something like this: CRO CTMS data for this week. There are no follow-up questions in here.
Okay.
And then I attach the file. So obviously, if there were follow-up questions, I would say, there's some questions in here. Can you help me? They're marked in red, something like that, so that they know exactly where to go and what to look for. Mm-hmm. And then I send that off. 11:39 is done for the week.
Okay, and so the copy exists in your study folder, or?
Yeah, so I saved it to my desktop, and then I uploaded it into the studies folder here. And so now that it's been checked in, the check-in comment has been changed from initial to edits done.
So I'd be able to take a look at the, just to review it and review what we learned.
Yeah, and any of the ones in here too, you have access to all of it.
Okay. Great.
So I know we have 20 minutes left. I want to take just a quick second to show you one other quick project. Before I do that, I am getting pinged. Hang on just a second. See? All right. I need to print something real quickly, and then I will show you a QC task.
Okay.
And where am I signing? What am I signing? Where's my... Oh, I'm number one on the list. Print. Okay. I am going to send you an Excel file.
Okay.
And it looks like this. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Yet. I have to open it first. Okay. I have been working on this for a while already. So it's got a whole big bunch of lines in here. But I've done about half of it already, as you can see. So what I'd like you to do is pick it up where I left off. So this is a QC check that we've been talking about in CIS, and the issue with these is there's something wrong with the qualifications field in the contact record. Usually what it is there's an extra carriage return in the field.
Okay.
So what you'll do is you'll just remove the extra carriage return, or if it's a double quote, let's see, going down through here, it looks like all of the rest of these are qualifications. So this column B will tell you what field exactly. And it looks like I need to, I'll clean this up before I send it over to you. Some of these are not fields that you can modify, so these are ones you can't do. But see, for example, and I'll give you some, like a descriptor for what this code here in column C means.
Okay.
we're looking at the site name in this case to find a double quote.
Oh, DQ.
So it has quotation marks, and the migration that we're doing for Tesla doesn't like quotes.
Quotes, so we've got to take them
It
out.
also doesn't like tabs entered into the text. So we're removing those things. So what you do is
doesn't like tabs or quotes. Here. Okay.
So this is called an object ID, and this is the same thing as this. But the Quant has put in a hyperlink that goes directly into SharePoint to the exact record that needs to be fixed, so that you can change it right away. And if you look at these numbers, you can see these last sets of digits match.
They match, right?
So it's finding two errors. It's like it's duplicated. So this goes quicker than you think it would, because if you look at these and just verify, like you only have to open this one but not this one, and this one but not this one, and this one but not this one. So I'm going to click on this hyperlink.
So it's a line feed and a carriage return.
Exactly. And I'm going to log in.
Okay.
Twice, I think, usually. And the cool thing is that once you do that, as you're working on this, you won't have to log in again. But see, it opened up exactly the record. So now I go in and I edit the file, edit the item.
Click check and edit file. Okay.
And because this one said it was a qualifications thing, that's going to be an additional field. And if I click into it, see where the carriage return, or see where the cursor is?
Yes.
So I hit backspace and save the record. That's it.
Okay. And then just save done.
So,
comments. Okay.
Exactly. So in the tracker, this is what I love about this automated process. So let me do this.
Nice. Yeah, I can really appreciate that. I used to go back and forth.
So now that's purple, right? So now I can come over here and I can go this one. It resets. Minimize these so they can see the magic happening.
Oh, okay.
And now I can go this one. Refresh. This one. And now I've got a tab open for each one of those.
Now you can just go in there and change them. Boom, boom, boom.
Yep. So you can open like 15 of them at once. And come in, take the carriage return out, save the record, go to the next one, edit. So I would like you to help.
Okay, I can certainly
get through the rest of this. And I'll clean it up and mark the ones that I know you won't be able to do because they're not editable anymore. They're records we don't actually touch anymore.
Okay.
Just a few of them in there.
Right,
and then if you could work on that, that would be great. There's not necessarily a deadline on this, but it won't take you very long.
So what about LF, the line feed? So that takes care of the line feed and the extra character, right?
It does. I couldn't find. Yeah, I couldn't find anything else. I haven't been able to find anything else wrong with any of it. And so once we get done with this, what we'll be able to do is refresh the error report, get a fresh set, and see what's left.
Okay.
In some cases, it'll say, like these, for example, down below where it said that it was a site name issue. Chances are there was also an error earlier in this report that was an institution name issue. So if you look at it from the site name perspective, I've already fixed it because that information shows up in multiple places. So if you fix the source, then all of the
other ones
sub places where it's is already fixed. So
right, because all the LFs are gone now. I mean, you fixed the LFs.
Right, because you took it out of the main file.
Okay, and the CRs. So okay. Okay. So
this goes pretty quickly.
All right.
And as you can see, I use the same color code format in just about everything. Yellow typically means it's got everything else done with it except the last step. So, for example, if it's a brand new site contact that needed to have a contact record added, when I added the contact, so if I couldn't find it, I marked it red. When I added the contact and it was all ready to be added as a site contact, I'd mark it yellow. And then once I'd added the site contact record and it was in all the places it needed to be, I marked it green. So when you start surfing through my files and see stuff like that, that's the basic crux of my process is that it means like yellow means the last step is all that's missing.
Okay.
So I will send that to you today, and then next week on Tuesday, the 1139 CRO report will come in.
Okay.
I'm not sure that I have any open space in my calendar tomorrow. I wish I could because we could look at 1130 together. There's some interesting stuff in there that I want to show you, but we could probably do that next week too. 1130 tends to have a lot of things that look like they're deleted that actually weren't. And so I want to show you how to navigate that, how to see it, how to understand it. So maybe Monday,
Okay.
I'll schedule some time with you to look at that.
Okay. Could do that.
And then we can keep going.
Yeah, and it'll give me some time to look over what we did today. You know, what I did with Emma and with you. And sort of, review that. Because I have the files.
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Great.
thank you. Thank you so much for your training today. Yes, it's very helpful with all the shortcuts and so will I.
It's helpful for me too because it's taking stuff off my plate.
Yes.
We're getting work done and you're taking stuff off my plate. It's like killing so many birds with one stone. It's kind of scary.
Yes, thank you.
So, I'll schedule some time for us on Monday. I'll clean up that file and send that over to you just within the next little bit here, so you'll have that before the end of the day today. So you've got some stuff that you can be working on.
Good.
It's a little repetitive and a little boring, but at the same time, it really gets you into that, editing and saving and clicking through the different tabs and, take your time if you want to, kind of looking and seeing what's in there. But you will actually be accomplishing something while you're doing it as well.
Okay.
Making changes in the system. So.
And just, I'll be charging that to QC if I do, right?
Yeah, so this list that I just showed you is QC work, and then the other one, like what we did now, so, this is still training these last 2 hours. Next week when you get the 1139 file, that's a CRO report, and then the other work will be QC.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Debbie.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of today. Happy Thursday.
Thank you. You too. I will. A couple more meetings and then I'm done.
All right. Thanks, Heather.
Almost there. Okay. We'll chat soon. Thanks, Debbie.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.